Hello and welcome back to Betrayed and Broken. We truly appreciate every view and comment. Please let us know which country or city you're watching from today. We love connecting with our global audience. Now let's begin today's story. I was wrapped in the sheets, my lover's body resting beside mine, and the world outside felt distant. Seemed like a hidden paradise. Every touch and every kiss felt like an escape. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling me out of the moment. I hesitantly reached for it, not wanting to face what was coming next. "Hey babe," I said, trying to sound relaxed, though my heart was already pounding. "Are you almost finished? I miss you." My husband's voice was gentle and calm, completely unaware of what I was doing. I glanced at my lover, a sly smile forming at the corners of my mouth. "I'll make it up to you when I get home. Promise." I ended the call with a small laugh. "He's like an old dog," I whispered, fed by excuses and always waiting for me at the front door. I shook my head as if to push away the thought, trying to hide the guilt slowly creeping in. But the excitement of it all, the risk, the secrecy, was almost addictive. An hour later everything fell apart. The door to the motel room burst open with a terrifying force. My eyes widened as I looked up, my heart beating rapidly. Standing in the doorway was my husband, his face full of anger and his breathing heavy. In his hand, a revolver gleamed threateningly in the dim light. Time seemed to stop as our eyes met. "Get up," he growled, his voice cold and threatening. "Get up and come with me, or I swear I'll cut your manhood off." My lover jumped to his feet, his face pale with fear. I could hardly breathe, feeling the tension thick in the air. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. He was the one who was supposed to be careless, the one who always lost control. But now it was my husband standing there like a ticking time bomb. He grabbed my lover roughly by the arm and dragged him toward the bathroom. A disturbing silence followed, broken only by the loud sound of the door slamming shut behind them. Then bang! A single thunderous noise tore through the air. My heart skipped a beat. For a moment I stood frozen, staring at the closed bathroom door, barely able to breathe. The shock hadn't sunk in yet. What just happened? Seconds passed and finally the door creaked open. My husband stepped out. His face was pale, his eyes filled with something darker than I had ever seen before. The gun was still in his hand, but his grip had weakened, trembling slightly. His eyes locked onto mine and I couldn't look away. There was something in his gaze, something unfamiliar, something dangerous. He said nothing at first. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, he spoke the words that would haunt me forever. That was when the real nightmare began. The silence in the room was overwhelming, broken only by the quiet drip of water from the bathroom sink. My thoughts raced. My heart pounded in my chest, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I stood frozen, unsure whether to move, speak, or even breathe. My husband's words echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of how far things had spiraled out of control, how far he had gone. He stepped closer, still gripping the gun, his knuckles white from the tension. I wanted to speak, anything, but the words caught in my throat. What could I possibly say to him? The man I had spent years with, the man who had always been patient and kind, now stood before me like a stranger, cold and filled with fury. "You," he said, his voice low and trembling with rage. "I trusted you. We trusted you." His eyes flicked past me toward the bathroom door. I didn't dare look back. His hand shook slightly as he lowered the weapon. The tension in the room hung heavy like a suffocating fog. And yet, beyond the anger, I saw something else in his face, something hiding beneath his rage. It was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing everything he thought we had. I opened my mouth, desperate to explain, to somehow undo the damage. But before I could speak a word, the bathroom door creaked open. My lover stumbled out, his face pale, drenched in sweat. He was shaking, his eyes darting between my husband and me. "Please," he whimpered, reaching toward me. But my husband's glare was enough to stop him in his tracks. "No," my husband growled, his voice sharp. "This doesn't involve you anymore." A sharp twist of guilt struck deep in my chest. What I once thought was thrilling, even freeing, now felt like a devastating mistake. Standing there, face to face with my husband, his eyes brimming with pain and betrayal, I finally saw the truth. This wasn't excitement. This was destruction. "You're nothing," my husband spat, turning his attention back to me. "Zarina," he said, his voice low and firm. "You think you can treat me like this? That you can do whatever you want without facing the consequences?" I flinched as his words landed like a blow. Each one cut deeper than I expected. Every syllable was a reminder of how badly I had betrayed him, of how far I had drifted from the woman he once loved. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. What could I say? What excuse could possibly explain the chaos I had caused? Ring. Another gunshot echoed through the room. My lover collapsed to the floor, his body twitching violently as the life drained out of him. My breath caught in my throat as the room spun around me. My husband stood over him, still gripping the gun. Blood spread beneath my lover's body, soaking into the carpet. For a moment I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, my mind unable to process the horror unfolding before my eyes. This was it, the moment of no return, the turning point when everything changed forever. My husband turned toward me, his eyes wide and unblinking. "Now," he said in a whisper. "We're done." Time seemed to slow down. Every second stretched endlessly as I stared at him. His face, once so familiar, now looked like the mask of a stranger. The gun in his hand was still smoking, the barrel trembling slightly from the shot. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, too heavy to take in. "You!" I gasped, but the word barely escaped my lips. I had never seen him like this. Never imagined that the calm, dependable man I had spent years with could snap so violently. He turned away, his movements sharp and furious, stepping toward my lover's lifeless body. "You think you've won. That you've beaten me," he growled. "Let me tell you something, Sarah. No one wins when they play dirty." He grabbed my lover's arm and dragged the body across the floor with a force that stunned me. "This is what happens when you cheat and think there won't be consequences. This is what happens when you disrespect me. In my life, in my space." His words were harsh, but they barely registered in my mind. All I could feel was the emptiness wrapping around me like a cold fog. I had been selfish, blind to the damage I was causing. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. My husband stopped at the motel door and looked back at me. His eyes were hollow, void of the love that had once held us together. There was nothing left. Nothing at all. "I never wanted this," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I never meant for any of this to happen." He didn't reply. Instead, he opened the door, stepped into the cold night, and slammed it shut behind him. I stood in the middle of the room, my heart racing. My world had fallen apart. I looked at my lover's body. The blood still pooled beneath him, staining the floor. His face was unrecognizable, frozen in a final expression of fear. He had been reckless, and now he was gone. I dropped to my knees beside him. Tears poured down uncontrollably as the weight of it all crashed over me. What have I done? The sound of tires screeching outside pulled me from my haze. I didn't even need to look. I already knew. My husband was gone. And the damage was permanent. Suddenly, a voice came from the doorway, deep and unfamiliar. "You better get out of here, sweetheart." Froze. It wasn't my husband's voice. It wasn't anyone I recognized. A tall man stepped into the room, his face hidden in the shadows. I had never seen him before, but his presence filled the air with something heavy, ominous. I scrambled to my feet, my thoughts in a panic, but my legs felt weak and unsteady. My heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to find my voice. Who are you?" I managed, my voice trembling. The man smirked, a cold, knowing glint in his eyes. Doesn't matter who I am. What matters is who you are. And the mess you've gotten yourself into. Before I could say another word, he stepped further into the room, surveying the bloody scene. A twisted smile crept across his face. I've been watching you for a while, Sarah. You're not just a cheater. You're a loose end. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was a game. And now I was playing for my life. I tried to control my breathing, but the panic gripped me tightly. My pulse pounded in my ears as I stared at the stranger who had just walked into my nightmare. There was something about him, something menacing. I could feel it in the air, in the way his eyes bore into mine with cold, calculated intensity. I don't know who you are, I whispered, stepping back. Unresponsive, but my legs felt like jelly. Maintained emotional intensity. Respectful, copyright-free style. Rewritten story, part 4. What do you want from me? Asked, my voice shaky. He chuckled, a low, almost mocking sound. What do I want? Sweetheart, it's not about what I want. It's about what you've done. His eyes flicked to my lover's body, and a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't believe this was real. I had crossed a line, and now there was no going back. Everything I had known was falling apart. I began, my voice trembling. You don't get it, do you? He cut me off sharply. His tone sliced through the air like a blade. You've caused chaos. Left destruction in your wake. Your husband, he's out there. And he's furious. But he's not the only one. You've got someone else watching you now. And unlike him, I'm not so forgiving. My head spun. I didn't understand what he meant, but the weight of his words crushed me. There was no way out, no escape from the mess I had created. The lies, the betrayal, the revenge. It had all caught up with me. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. I could feel everything closing in around me. He stepped closer. His presence was overwhelming, suffocating. You think you're in control? He said, his voice low and almost hypnotic. You're not. You've played a dangerous game, Sarah. Now you're going to find out what the real stakes are. Before I could move, he pulled a phone from his jacket and held it up. On the screen was a video. My husband standing at the motel door. Gun still smoking. His face twisted in rage. His voice came through the speaker, clear and cold. I never thought you'd fall this far, Sarah. But now I see the truth. You don't deserve me. You never did. The room spun. The words hit harder than anything else. I looked at the man before me, and suddenly it made sense. He had orchestrated this. All of it. The destruction, the chaos. I had walked right into his trap. What is this? I whispered, my voice weak. He smiled again, that same twisted, satisfied grin. It's your fate, sweetheart. Your fate. And the beginning of your reckoning. Suddenly, the door behind me slammed open. I jumped and spun around, my heart racing. It was my husband. Blood on his hands. Eyes wide and filled with something I couldn't fully read. Fury, yes, but something else too. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. You! His voice cracked. For a split second, I thought I saw regret flash in his eyes, but it disappeared just as quickly. Come here, the stranger barked, his voice firm and commanding. It's time to finish what you started. I couldn't process it. The room spun again, danger closing in on every side. This had started as an affair. Secret. Thrill. Now it was a nightmare. Deadly. My husband didn't move. He just stood there, frozen, staring at me. Then, in a sudden blur, the man lunged forward. He grabbed my husband by the collar, dragging him close with terrifying strength. No one tells me what to do, he snarled. Everything after that happened so fast. Gunshots, the door slamming, screams swallowed by silence. Me, still standing there, trapped, caught in a nightmare of my own making. And there was no way out.